In a move that has sent shockwaves through global markets, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a 100% tariff on all Chinese imports, set to take effect on November 1st. Speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump framed the decision as a bold defense of American industry and a direct response to China's new export restrictions on rare earth minerals, materials vital to the production of advanced electronics, electric vehicles, and military equipment. China thinks it can choke our industries by cutting off rare earth supplies, Trump declared. They're about to find out America won't be blackmailed. The sweeping tariff represents the toughest trade measure ever imposed by Washington on Beijing, covering an estimated $500 billion worth of goods, from consumer electronics to industrial components. White House officials justified the move as a national security response rather than a mere trade dispute. "This is not about tariffs, it's about technology, sovereignty, and survival," said one senior advisor. The timing, however, is particularly sensitive. The announcement comes just weeks before a planned summit between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping, a meeting intended to ease tensions and re-establish economic cooperation. Now, that meeting's future hangs in the balance. Beijing has not officially confirmed whether she will still attend, and analysts believe this sudden escalation could collapse months of diplomatic groundwork. Market reactions were swift and severe. U.S. stock futures fell sharply overnight, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropping nearly 700 points, while Asian markets opened deep in the red. The Chinese yuan weakened, signaling investor concern about prolonged economic strain. Meanwhile, U.S. retailers and manufacturers expressed alarm, warning that the tariffs would raise production costs and consumer prices ahead of the critical holiday season. Internationally, leaders from the European Union and Japan have urged restraint, fearing the move could ignite another global trade war reminiscent of 2018 to 2019. Yet Trump appeared unfazed, doubling down on his message, "We tried fair trade. Now it's time for equal trade or no trade at all." Beijing wasted no time in delivering a sharp and uncompromising response to President Trump's tariff announcement. Within hours, China's Ministry of Commerce condemned the move as a reckless provocation that violates the spirit of international trade law. The government vowed to implement firm and necessary countermeasures, signaling that the world's two largest economies may be heading toward another full-scale trade confrontation. Chinese state media described Trump's 100% tariff as an act of economic aggression and accused Washington of deliberately destabilizing global markets for political gain. Officials hinted that Beijing could retaliate by expanding its export bans on key materials, including rare earth elements, lithium batteries, and advanced medical equipment, all vital to American technology and defense industries. Analysts also expect possible restrictions on U.S. companies operating in China, particularly tech giants like Apple, Tesla, and Qualcomm, which rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing and consumer bases. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying accused the United States of politicizing trade and sabotaging global supply chains. She added that the tariffs will not intimidate China but will instead hurt American consumers and businesses. The Chinese yuan continued to fall amid the tension, while Shanghai's stock market closed down nearly 4%, its sharpest drop in months. The global reaction has been one of deep concern. The European Union warned that the escalating dispute could trigger a chain reaction affecting global inflation and commodity prices. Japan and South Korea, caught between two economic giants, urged both sides to return to negotiations. The World Trade Organization, WTO, expressed alarm, cautioning that unilateral trade measures could erode confidence in the global economic system. Meanwhile, Wall Street investors and economists warned that the standoff could disrupt global supply chains, particularly in electronics and automotive industries. "We're witnessing a rerun of 2018, but this time, the stakes are even higher," said economist Daniel Kurtz of Global Insight. Despite the warnings, both Washington and Beijing appear resolute, each unwilling to back down, raising fears that the fragile balance of global trade is once again on the brink of collapse. With the November 1st deadline fast approaching, global uncertainty is mounting. Economists, diplomats, and industry leaders are warning that the U.S.-China confrontation could spiral into a new economic Cold War, reshaping global trade patterns for decades. The 100% tariffs announced by President Trump are expected to drive up costs across nearly every consumer sector in the United States, from smartphones and clothing to vehicles and home appliances. The National Retail Federation warned that the burden of this tariff war will fall squarely on American households, potentially adding hundreds of dollars to yearly living expenses per family. Inside the White House, advisors are framing the move as a bold bid to force Beijing's hand on fair trade and national security. "This is about self-reliance," said Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. "We're going to make, mine, and build an America again." The administration has already begun fast-tracking permits for domestic rare earth mining projects in states like Texas and Wyoming, aiming to reduce dependence on China. Yet industry experts caution that developing these supply chains could take 5 to 7 years, leaving U.S. manufacturers exposed to short-term shortages. In Beijing, President Xi Jinping has reportedly convened a crisis economic task force to evaluate the next steps. Chinese economists are debating whether to retaliate aggressively or adopt a more measured approach to avoid global backlash. For now, official statements emphasize strategic patience but hint at targeted countermeasures designed to inflict maximum pressure without collapsing trade entirely. Meanwhile, markets remain volatile. Oil prices have surged, global currencies are fluctuating, and investor confidence has plummeted. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has downgraded growth forecasts for both nations, warning that a prolonged tariff war could slow global GDP by as much as 1.5%. Diplomatic backchannels between Washington and Beijing remain open, but trust is at an all-time low. Whether cooler heads will prevail before November 1st is uncertain. As one analyst put it, this isn't just a trade dispute anymore, it's a battle over who defines the future of the global economy.